Welcome to Stream Detroit, the Big Digital Thinker series. I'm Mike McClintock with Brad Fox. Our guest today is Kevin Smith of 360 Brand Machine. Welcome.
Thanks for having me down.
Thanks for coming on. It's Monday Night Football night. There's a bunch of Jets and Bills fans running around downtown, so you have to beware. But as I was coming down to our luscious, beautiful studio here, I pulled up to some Bills fans on the sidewalk, and I rolled down the window and I started screaming, Jets, 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 Jets. And then I had to say I was sorry. I was like, I don't even know why I did that. I'm not even a Jets fan.
Well, one thing for certain, the Lions will not lose tonight. So that's
a guarantee.
Yep,
guaranteed.
They probably will have to carry Jim Schwartz off the field again. So I think we should probably treat this as a Jets home game just because of that. So,
I agree.
Yep. So we're in a new studio today. We got moved out of Studio 3A up to Studio 4F. So we got some nice digs behind us. That's the David Whitney building, in case anybody was wondering what it looks like. Although it's a little bit dark right now, but you won't hear any. They at least stopped working on the construction because it's dark outside. So we don't have the construction noise for this particular broadcast, but apparently we do have some toilet flushing sounds in the ceiling. So bear with us on that one.
Maybe that's the sound of Jim Schwartz.
It could be some kind of a flush going on there. So, well, welcome, Kevin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about 360 Brand Machine?
Yeah, sure. So back in about 2008 during Carmageddon, I decided I wanted to try something new, and it was sort of driven by necessity because there wasn't a whole lot happening in the ad business at the time. So I kind of looked at the landscape and had been in the advertising and branding business, in fact, working with Brad for a few years over on the Ford business, but I just decided, the ad game had changed a little bit. I saw some opportunities out there to do things a little bit differently. And so kind of positioned what we do. I actually started not one but two companies. Brand Machine is a brand consultancy. We're in the brand solutions business, and also started another LLC by the name of Virtual Voice, and which is a proprietary software tool that we built in the crowdsourcing and co-design space. So I'd like to share that with you tonight.
Crowdsourcing and co-design.
Yeah. So, some of the trends that you see happening in marketing right now is before, it used to be pretty much a push business. And, what we're seeing happening now is more, buzzwords like collaborative marketing, participatory marketing, interactive marketing. And so we just thought it was kind of the right time to build some tools around those lines and actually allow consumers to cross the red velvet rope of car design, and obviously that had been a passion point of mine. Both Brad and I have worked upstream in that space, trying to understand customer needs and wants, the voice of the customer and the like. So Virtual Voice was sort of born out of that as a little bit different and more interactive process to do that. So,
and when you say co-design, what do you mean by that? You can co-design. Do you get to design your own?
Right. So, a lot of, if you look at how cars have been designed in this town since forever, it's been pretty much sort of a one-way process. We're gonna make the cars, and we'll do some research clinics and the like, and ultimately, we'll bring them to market. And so what we're seeing though is if you look at some of the trends that are happening today, you've got consumers that are generating content like Doritos Super Bowl ads that are produced for a couple $100 on a handy cam and actually score as well as very expensive, highly produced ads.
Right.
And so the technology exists to do that now, but really what we're about is sort of engaging further upstream in what has been called the fuzzy front end of design, where a lot of time is being spent on concept, and there's a huge opportunity to sort of shorten the process of getting consumer insights and understanding what works, and sometimes even more importantly, what doesn't work from a consumer perspective. Because what you really find out is not everybody knows how to design, but everybody has a pretty good sense of what they like and what they don't like.
Right. We all know how to design. Come on.
That's right.
We're all car designers. We've been drawn since we were kids.
Yep.
Yeah, and therein lies part of the problem, right? Because, I would imagine that you've probably run into some of that resistance from maybe the traditional design community, meaning if you're enabling consumers to provide feedback quicker, which is a big game changer, right? Because, Kevin and I have probably attended many a focus group where, you test a couple of design themes. So, if you're doing the next generation Ford Taurus, for example, you might say, here's a square one, here's a round one, and here's one in between, and then clinic it in New York, Chicago, LA, and Miami.
Round ones.
Round ones win the day. But that feedback loop takes, first of all, it's a lot of different clinics, it's a lot of travel, a lot of time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Time travel.
It comes up a lot on this show.
Time travel.
It's like, yeah,
has something to do with lasers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of time involved, right? And getting that feedback from the consumers, you have to tally all the research. You're paying a research company a lot of money to sit behind the two-way mirror. So I imagine this is a huge, not only it speeds up that process, but at the same time, you might be kind of bruising the ego, if you will, of kind of that traditional designer who's saying, wait a minute, I'm the designer, not the consumer.
Right. Yeah, so we've experienced a little pushback from more so I think on the designer side of the business, but at least originally, and maybe more from a traditional designer perspective. And I think the big joke and the big fear is that this kind of process lends itself to designing a Homer Simpson mobile, right? If we let consumers run amok and do different things with design elements, that we're going to end up with a mess. But what we've really found out is people that are more comfortable with digital solutions.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when we rolled this out at Pebble Beach, we had a lot of support from younger designers saying, I love this because I can find out immediately what resonates with consumers and what doesn't, and it can actually help me as a tool to push maybe some things that are edgier designs that might be sort of
to get some backup data that says, yeah, it's all fins.
It works, right?
Historically you get that argument of, well, I think, like two designers or two different schools of thought.
So you got to run it through the whole process first.
Right. Well, isn't
all votes count?
Maybe all the good,
others,
maybe
right?
the good ideas get filtered out before.
Right, and again, and people are passionate about this stuff. I mean, if you can take areas like this or fashion or whatever, you can say, hey, we want to invite you in. We want to make it inclusive, right? The technology allows people really to do that. And
that's the two-way conversation too that everybody says that they want to have.
Exactly.
They want to have that conversation with the brand, for lack of a better term, but
Sure.
they want to be participatory.
Yeah, and especially in the enthusiast communities, right? Like, Ford just launched a new Shelby and at the LA Auto Show. I mean, those people are just rabid fans and just want to share their opinions about what they know and they like. And so we first rolled this tool out at Pebble Beach as a solution.
You rolled it out at Pebble Beach, like on the golf course?
So
how does that work?
There's a huge car show that's done annually. It's one of the biggest in the world, actually. The Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. I should back that up too. The whole beta phase before this, right? So we spent year and a half just trying to figure out, well, we think we have a pretty decent concept here. There are different digital tools, ways that we can play with virtual reality and whatnot, but in the end, does it work, right? So we started out with a Mustang. We said, what if we gave people the chance to do this next generation Mustang? If we could, just query a bunch of different, older people, younger people, men and women, to get their insights on what this future car should be. So Mustang's been playing the heritage card for a while. Should they wholesale go in a different direction or whatnot? And so people were very passionate about this, and we found some cues on this car that you should just never violate. And we actually used this participatory group to help us sketch a next generation Mustang. We then put it in a finished 2D model and then actually moved it into 3D. Where we could actually manipulate things in different ways as well. So that was part of the early phase. We also did something where we did an embedded widget experience on a blog called Allpar, where we engaged some very enthusiastic Gen Y cohort to help us understand the future direction of what a compact sport car should be. That was interesting as well. And we actually got a lot of noise when we pulled it down. They're like, dude, why'd you take this down? Because we love this process of co-creating and co-designing, right?
What's it look like? I mean, if you're gonna,
yeah. So
is it an app? I mean, it's
yeah.
like,
So it's an
okay.
app, and I can start out and show you.
Can show us the magic of the internet.
Right. So this is our latest version that was kind of born out of the original activation that we had at Pebble Beach with Lincoln, and we're calling the Sketchpad 2.0. And what we did to get to this point is we got some feedback from some of the clients that said, you know what, we'd like this to be even more interactive in the future, and we'd also like to see it with a social share component to it, right? So what we did is we said, okay, we brought designers in and we said, guys, look, if we could help you with a tool for designing cars, what would it be? And basically came back with a two-step process, right? So they said the first thing you need to understand are stance and proportions on the vehicle, right? Like, what does the greenhouse area look like? You know, what are the shoulders of the vehicle and such? And so what this does is it really helps us to get to there we go. It helps us get to an idea of what the possibilities are in terms of, you know, side gestures to the vehicle. Is it something like that? This is the roof line. As far as, is it this kind of, you know, sort of shoulder treatment and whatnot? You know, is there
Rolls-Royce-esque or something?
Exactly. Is it more edgy? Is it a more rounded form? And then we can start getting into, you know, what is the front end as we start to move into a graphics orientation of the vehicle? What does that look like? So we can do almost a limitless combination just to try to figure out the general proportions of the vehicle. And then, of course, there's a social share piece to this as well.
And all the time you're gathering this information, right? So
that's exactly right. So the big aha behind this is that we're engaging consumers on the front end with the interface, but on the back end, we're also getting a lot of rich research insights for design.
You can tell which ones they're looking at and blowing right past. And
yeah, exactly.
Almost like, you got like times on there. You can almost look at it and say, oh, they started that for a while. And
absolutely. You know how long that you know, people will soak on it, and we really had some great experiences at Pebble where people would actually dive into these things for a few minutes and then want to go back in, and that's huge. You want it to be
get another idea, and you got to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And so there's a second phase to this as well. So that's the first phase of you know, just trying to understand the stance and proportions of the vehicle. And so it's both a technology, but it's also a method, patent pending on this, that what we're doing is we're trying to engage consumers both quantitatively as well as qualitatively. And it's more about just doing research, but it's also creating things with consumers, right? So you get people that are passionate about anything, fashion, cars, whatever. They love this opportunity to do this. On this opening screen, we have some basic CRM data. Fill it out and complete it. But again,
CRM is customer relationship management, meaning consumer data, basically personal information that they're willing, that consumers are opting in to share, not you're taking from them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, so in this case, once we've figured out the stance and proportions of the vehicle, and in fact, we may have had another session just to engage consumers after the fact to say, okay, we tweaked this out a little bit, and what do you think? Do you like this? So qualitative feedback from what we've generated with our design team.
So it's quantitative and qualitative.
Exactly. So now we're saying, okay, as far as a gesture for a grill treatment, would you like something that's more traditional and horizontal like this, or might it be something a little bit more advanced with a vertical headlight treatment like that? And then, you know, once we move into the balance area of the car, we can say, is it something that looks like that, or in fact, something that looks like this? The lower body treatment of the vehicle, we can explore all sorts of different ranges. Of course, the wheels are easy. But, and again, there's a social share component that we can share this out to social media.
So you're saying, hey, look at this car I just designed. It'll be in showrooms next week.
Yep. Come design yours, you know.
So there's some bragging going on, meaning like, hey, mine's cooler than yours, that kind of a thing. But in the meantime, you're creating dialogue, which I think is really valuable to the marketer, whether it's Ford or Lincoln or somebody else, where you're getting this feedback and kind of people sharing mine's better than yours, and meanwhile, it's I think it's a great feedback tool.
So we've used this as a research tool, but we've also used it as a branded content device. And I think the big surprise that our client Lincoln experienced at Pebble Beach was, we told them, you know, this is kind of a very transformational type moment for your brand, because people are going to be very interested in you taking a lead role in crowdsourcing and co-design. And in fact, based on some of the analytics that we looked at, we delivered 4 million media impressions for like next to nothing of a PR budget. So 2 things. We created some very interesting design concepts. In fact, we landed at 3 retro futurist inspired design concepts, engaging with these Pebble Beach enthusiasts through this process, but also created a ton of buzz for the brand at the same time because it's different and was newsworthy. So
and also Lincoln at the same time is kind of going through. They've just for the parent company just invested. I think the number was like $5 billion. $5 billion in the Lincoln brand because it's been troubled over the last couple of years. Yep. So they've had this infusion of a big time capital to help change things at Lincoln because they've been kind of going downhill for a while.
Does this skew younger? Is this a lot of millennial and engagement?
It can be whatever, and in fact, we've looked at actually partnering with different media partners in terms of that is a great way to kind of control the community and the demographics. Actually, the next one that I can show you is something that we did with Ford Motor Company more recently, with more of a Gen Y cohort. So I would argue that this first endeavor that we did with Lincoln at Pebble Beach tended to skew more older because, generally speaking, that's who attends.
So they really got into it though. So
oh yeah, again,
that's a tougher demographic to get to engage. If you can get that demographic to engage.
Oh yeah, and some of the anecdotes that come out, and the passion that they have for old cars, and the Lincoln brand, the Cadillac brand, and wanting them to see them do well, and to see some of these great cues, from like the 40s Zephyr, the 50s Mark II, and the 61 Entourage, Kennedy Continental, those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun for them.
So what skews more Gen X? Is that a different app or something? Or
well, I think what we'd show you on the next one would be what we did with the Comic-Con event as an activation, and actually another industry first activation that we did with the Gawker media blogs. You might be familiar with Jalopnik, IO9, Gizmodo. Their interest in this was to say, hey, you know what, let's engage our blog community to use the app to develop a next generation superhero car, which was really kind of interesting. So we had
that we need.
It was, and if you're, again, these folks are really interested in doing the whole cosplay kind of thing, and trying to take these superhero icons and marry that to the Ford Fiesta launch as an activity was what we did there.
But this would be demographically agnostic, if you will, right? Because it could apply to an older crowd, and you could distribute this, if you will, at an event or a medium like an older skewing TV show, not TV show, but magazine or event or website. Similarly, with what you've done with Fiesta, you could just cater it to a younger audience, whether it's Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, etc.
Absolutely. We've also looked at this. Stay tuned for a couple activations that we're looking for. There's a huge move to the whole STEM thing, right, with education, and a great deal of interest in terms of bringing kids under the tent and kind of understanding digital tools and how design works. And so we're looking at a couple different opportunities in that space, and actually helping designers share their story of how they design cars. And so in this way, it's an ally again to the design community to say, look, this is how we do our craft, and engaging kids to be able to create their own designs as well.
So that's a great product. I mean, that's a good platform. So are you more of a product company, or more of a services or branding, or both, or all of the above? Or
I'd kind of say we're all of the above. We do traditional brand and design consulting with 360 Brand Machine, more on the virtual voice side.
So this is virtual voice products.
And so some of there's certainly product consulting that can come out of this tool, branded content creation that come out of this tool, and certainly research analytics on the back end. So yeah, it's kind of a hybrid product, and in candidly, it's kind of a challenge for some people, because I think we're all sort of trained to be in swim lane thinking, right? And in fact, one researcher came back and said, well, it almost does too much,
Darn.
Swiss Army dump truck.
Yeah. So, but that's sort of how we've used it so far, and so yeah, kind of checks different boxes.
So what kind of branding types of things have you been working on?
More recently, some project work with the city of Detroit, and
We like that on Stream Detroit.
the whole city of Detroit. Everybody's very passionate about the comeback of the city and emerging out of bankruptcy and whatnot. Huge opportunities. Just as you look down Woodward here tonight, the city's all decorated, and just it's really amazing to be down here. So one of the things that we've been proud to collaborate on with Brand Machine is some of the agency effort downtown to rebrand the city, and talked about some of the great things that are happening. And of course you sound like a homer when you talk about it, but it's just really refreshing to see the culture of governance and change and positive
culture of
things
governance
happening in the city. It's not just some slogan I think that the city wants to trot out, but I think there's been a lot of good work done by the mayor's office and a lot of rock stars that he's brought in.
In the mayor's office?
In the mayor's office, yes. We also have the Brand Machine blog, which I'd invite everybody to check out, but I wrote a blog on the city and some of the things that are happening, and just amazing the amount of support that everybody downtown has, everybody wanting to see this comeback happen, and it truly is happening. And I think, to the mayor's credit, some of the comeback effort, unlike days past, is not just happening in the core central business district here. It's actually starting out with real progress in the neighborhoods.
Right.
There's a lot of good work being done. You can see a corporate sort of mindset in the mayor and his turnaround efforts, and sort of how he just runs a staff meeting, using analytics to emergency response times. Where were we? Where are we?
Where do we need to go?
Where do we need to go, exactly.
They seem to have been able to put some lights up.
Yes, huge progress made just with streetlights. I mean, these are baby steps. I mean, they're fixing the roads and whatnot, but it's progress.
Yep.
And I think it's starting to get some national traction.
Yep.
And people are really talking positively about some of the good things happening. I mean, Detroit's getting kind of hip.
Yeah, it's also yes.
Detroit's the new Brooklyn.
Yeah,
It's the new orange.
It's also refreshing in the national media to see pieces from like New York Times talking about restaurants. There was a recent piece in the New York Times about some of the restaurants that are popping up in Detroit.
Can't even keep up with them.
Right, and it's typically when there's a national news piece on the city of Detroit, it's always the classic train depot, other ruin porn throughout the city. And to be fair, there's still a lot of it, but there's also this other thing that's going on in the city of Detroit that's not just, to your point.
There's not that much ruin porn anymore. I mean, aside from a couple of obvious ones like the Packard plant and the train station, there really isn't that much. I mean, you could come in here and make it look like that, but I mean, there's really not a whole lot of ruin porn around anymore. It's all under construction. It's all under rehab. It's all something's being done with everything.
Exactly, and I don't know if there's any place else in the country right now where you can see sort of like a big bang of stuff that was really rough. That is suddenly, I mean, we went out to lunch the other day and just walking down Woodward just to see things being rehabbed. I mean, it's just, it's really interesting if you're into that. I mean, just seeing a turnaround.
There's more construction here than there was in Chicago in the 90s. I mean, you can't even, there's more under construction that isn't under construction. It's like,
absolutely,
everywhere you go down here is construction.
There's huge energy and more news now that the Chinese are bidding up properties, and so that's great.
You look down, the street over here at lunchtime, it looks like, they're building the Empire State Building or something. There's just like lunch buckets and hard hats lined up all down the block just having lunch. I mean, there's just thousands of construction workers down here working, making it happen.
It's great to see. So there's a lot of positive energy, and we're doing some interesting things with another nameplate launch for a major car maker. So it's fun. I mean, there seems to be a new openness to collaboration, which is also interesting, with different agencies in town and whatnot. And great to see some of these open workspaces opening up and doing the kind of things that you guys are doing.
Down here, Grand Circus.
Yep.
Grand Circus and Bamboo, shout out.
Yeah, just 3 years ago, this was a boarded up building. I mean, just 3 years ago, and this has been open for a little bit over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And just this whole Madison block. John Barbados, fashion designer, he's moving right down the block. 2 restaurants within the last couple of months have opened up. So,
yep. It's all cool too because it's all like local small business too. It's not like it's a bunch of big ticket retailers. It's not like there's Starbucks and Walmart down here. It's all small real business that can grow. So unique stuff.
Absolutely.
Perfect place for people who enjoy a real challenge.
The perfect place for people who enjoy a real challenge. You should tweet that.
Now there you go. There's a theme line right there.
and a hashtag.
Yeah. So this is a bit of a more recent activation that we've done with our partners over at Ford, as well as Team Detroit and Tiny Toy Car. The Mission Critical Challenge is how do you engage these folks that love Comic-Con, love superheroes and whatnot, and how do you build buzz for the relaunch of the Ford Fiesta? And so we use Virtual Voice as the platform here and actually reached out to a Hot Wheels designer to have some fun with this car. And actually had a great deal of success with this. We had Ford issued a press release on this. We had over 24,000 engagements on the platform in under 24 hours. And so similarly, it works kind of the same way. You can see these different sort of superhero expressions that we can control here. And again, this could be a limitless combination of different looks to this vehicle.
And the consumers can, kind of pick their favorite, like with some of the other applications, consumers can kind of pick their favorite. Here's the one I designed, check it out, share it out to all their social network folks and so forth, right?
That's exactly right. And again, this is a sort of industry first too, because Gawker Media, they were very, very pleased with how this worked out because it gave their blog roll folks something interactive and dynamic to engage with. And created a lot of buzz for them.
Top 20 designs.
Cost affordably. And the insight, the big aha behind this is if you were a car maker, say you wanted to explore a freshening or a aftermarket package or whatever, or if you were a toy company. And we are, by the way, looking outside of the automotive realm and into potentially consumer durables and fashion for this. But the back end of the tool gave us a lot of good insights in terms of what really resonated out of the thousands of different combinations that could have emerged on this vehicle. 4 very clear themes were available in real-time analytics to understand, these are the ones that really seem to be resonating with consumers because they're building stuff that they like.
So out of this tens of thousands of possible combinations, 4 started to emerge, really?
Absolutely. And again, it's available in real time, and we've got some support from an OEM that want to tie this tool to some of auto show activity potentially to engage consumers and kind of understand what resonates in real time. So it's really
this
simple.
wasn't at Pebble Beach.
No. Wouldn't that be fun though?
Probably, yeah.
That'd be wacky.
Right.
That would be wacky.
What is this thing? Looks like a superhero.
Yeah. So again, we took this and we put it as an embedded widget inside one of the Kinja blog roll on Jalopnik, IO9, and Gizmodo, and it was build and share and a lot of fun.
But you could also take one of the ideas to take this potentially to your point about auto shows and maybe get feedback. Could this be like at a wheel stand at an auto show?
Absolutely.
Where you could either have somebody roving around, some of the people who are the models, or I guess that's probably not the proper term, is it?
Presenters.
The presenters, thank you.
Product specialists.
Product specialists. Yes. They could be walking around and say, hey, would you fill this out? So a quick way to get feedback at an auto show if you're doing a concept, to give that feedback, or potentially to create new concepts for the next show or whatever.
That's absolutely right. And if you really think about it, we've looked at how much time that this could take out of the conventional vehicle development process, and even a different way to do a SEMA car, for instance, which is...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's
if you wanted to let the crowd actually play a role in designing a vehicle, which of course they'd love to do, say, I had a hand in doing that, a tool like this makes a great deal of sense, and it could be a lot of fun for them to do it. So yeah, certainly that. There are a lot of different things that we've looked at in terms of doing virtual concept cars. Concept cars are really dreams, right? And you don't necessarily need to build them, because it's not like somebody's really going to buy them unless they're auctioned off or whatever. But you could, create these and actually present them in a lot of different ways using a lot of interesting emerging technology like Oculus Rift, like different ways of projecting things and whatnot that also kind of make it rather interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's all augmented reality now.
It is. It's all
and
fake.
Lasers.
It's all fake.
It seems like it's, there's a little bit to it when you're going to build a platform like that. How do you, obviously it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of effort. How do you build a platform like that? How do you get it funded? How's that work?
Well, I think originally you have to have a passion for something, and you have to get a good team together for sure. And I had an idea, and part of that was taking an idea because, my gosh, I didn't know a whole much of anything about software development, but there are people out there that do. So I connected with some partners that were developers, and also a very successful guy who had launched a software company and sold it as an advisor. And we basically bootstrapped the whole thing.
You bootstrapped that.
We did, and
was it as polished as it is now, or did
no, no,
or was it like in a wooden box with like stick figures and Luke
analog
Skywalker
switches, steampunky, right?
Right. So when we first did Pebble, we knew we had a platform that worked, and from the couple of betas that we had done, we've gotten progressively better, right? And it's taken time. And
where'd you show the betas to?
So we got a group of car enthusiasts together on a couple occasions, and we said, look, here's kind of the idea that we have, and we've got this platform that you can interact with. We embedded it on a blog to let them engage with, and we made it much better, obviously, for the client activation at Pebble Beach, and have made it better since. A lot of lessons learned along the way, right? I mean, patience and the expense of doing the patent work. I've got a patent attorney that's extremely expensive. I don't like him to call me.
Email him.
Because the meter's running.
Yeah, the meter's running all the time. So there's that, and it's a lot of dog and pony show. Going out and selling some new approach that is kind of transformational, and but it's really been interesting, and it's really kind of cool going to a new place and doing something that you're very passionate about. So
you're bootstrapping that, and you're making a couple of different betas, and you think you got something. I mean, but at some point, you got to be, you're waiting before you put this thing together with Pebble Beach and Lincoln. How do you get through the slog before that? I mean, is it just blind faith, or how much of it is luck? How much of it?
I think the thing that kept us going on this is that when people go, that's cool, and that's kind of a good idea, and you keep hearing that, and it keeps you motivated, and it keeps you hungry, and it keeps the group together, which we've been able to do. We have 6 people as part of the Virtual Voice LLC, and they've been great.
Is that a bootstrapped collaboration?
It is, right. And we all have different expertise, and bring something a little bit different.
So you didn't really outsource this to anything.
No.
This is like, here's the team we're in.
That's right. And
everybody's got, this is all sweat equity bootstrapped.
It is, and a lot of time against this, a lot of patience and careful development, and so it's been good. And right now we're looking at pushing it into different spaces. I don't know if I mentioned, but maybe potentially fashion, consumer durables, things of that nature. Could you do a wristwatch with this? We'll see. Things
or even residential homes. That might
for
be
sure. Yeah, do virtual floor plans with people and see how those resonate with different folks, right?
Do they want the shutters or the brick or the the clapboard on the outside, that kind of thing? I think there could be some applications there for sure.
Sure. And we're open for business. So Yes, shameless hawking.
So anything.
Shameless plug.
So it's not just consumer goods and non-consumer goods.
Right. No.
Anything.
If you dream it, we can build it. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I
while
just
we're
really
here?
appreciate having you guys have me down.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun.
Great.
So,
Thanks for coming on board.
I think we should go get a drink and go see the Jets and the Bills.
right on.
Okay. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Yep.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
You bet.